Welcome to another edition of Northern Heat. My name is Bob Lennon, President of ThermalWood Canada, host for the show, and our special guest today, Mike Bourne. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. Good seeing you again.
Well, it's nice to see you again. Here we are at NAM again, and pretty nice weather. It's better than being at home, the background here with the nice, beautiful trees that we couldn't grow back home.
That's true. Well, first time in a while I've been wearing short sleeve shirts to have a sweater around here.
There we go.
So I think winter's officially done.
For you. Not for us. We're going back to it tomorrow.
Well, that's okay. Summer will be that weekend in July that you get it.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story so the folks can get to know who you are?
Sure. So actually my background is I'm a wood science guy. As you know, we've done business for a long time when I was at Fender Guitar. But one of the things I started during the COVID shutdown was with a partner in Baltimore, a nonprofit called Urban Wood Economy, where we are really helping out the U.S. Forest Service in a lot of urban areas to build sawmills to be able to saw it into actual lumber, not slabs for individual tables, that sort of thing, but actually cut it on a volume scale, urban trees. So as trees come down in the city right now, the situation is that they end up going to the landfill. In the U.S.,
causes a problem.
You can't take all that volume. I think emerald ash borer really kind of drove this because the amount of volume that were coming out at first in northern cities, it hasn't hit all the U.S. cities, but ash is a very common street tree. So when all of a sudden they're getting 10 times the amount of trees being removed in a city area, that becomes a bit of an issue. You can't put it in landfills. And the Forest Service, to their credit, actually recognized that now it's more than they actually cut on forest land, U.S. forest land, every year. It's 4 billion board feet of timber comes out of city trees.
4 billion board feet.
That's bigger than the hardwood industry is in the United States a year.
That's pretty amazing. And the other thing too is that ending up in landfill, it's not just a case of loading up the landfills, but it's also carbon credits too.
Well, it is. That really, those things go back into the system as CO2 fairly quickly. Even if we chip those up, those are back into CO2 in about 3 years. So what our plan is to actually take those saw logs. We take everything from the arborists. So we usually work with private companies. They're removing trees. Their current supply chain is that they take that and they have to pay to go to a landfill, so much per ton to dump it. Usually their truck sits there in line with the other trucks for 2 or 3 hours with a 2-man crew.
Costly.
Very costly. Obviously, it's the labor, but it's the time that you're out of the field, everything else. In a lot of places, they have to take the bigger trees and cut them down to fireplace lengths, even to put them in the landfill. So now they put more labor into it to go pay to haul it away. So our first large volume operation is in Memphis, Tennessee, a heavily wooded area. That county alone, which is a fairly small county, has a lot of old growth, big trees in it. We're seeing diameters, an average of 4 feet diameter, street trees.
That's beautiful.
But 38 million trees in that county. So now if you do the math real quickly in your head and say if all those trees live to be 100, which a street tree doesn't generally live to be that old, that's 380,000 trees a year coming out of it.
Well, that'll give you a good supply for sure.
So with the works that in Memphis, we have a 10-acre lot. That is, we got a great deal on it from the city. It was an old building was torn down there, so it's all paved. It's in the middle of the city. It's in the middle of the neighborhoods that really need help with jobs. So we are locating the sawmill literally a mile from downtown. Think about putting a sawmill there. We take people from that neighborhood, run them through a workforce development plan where we train them to have jobs again. A lot of them come out of the incarceration system. They're underemployed. When we first talked with them, there's not a one of them in our program that ever made $15 an hour, which is standard, minimum wage in a lot of U.S. cities. So we give them decent employment with benefits and some job skills. And they're soft job skills that you and I would think were job skills. Showing up to work on time. Just how to balance your checkbook. Very simplistic sort of things, but it makes them good employees. So that's who we employ in those areas. We then saw these trees up into urban wood, dry them, and sell them to furniture manufacturers in volume.
So and this could, furniture manufacturers are one, but it can open up into a whole bunch of other.
Well, it will. The product itself, the raw material, is not as nice as what you get in the woods. It's grown out in the street where it's got room to bloom out. The limbs branch out very early. but they're big trees, still good wood in a lot of it. They're more common trees, so there we get a lot of red oak and white oak, which is very much in demand, especially the white oak. So there's a lot that we can market there. And once we kiln dry it, put it up on, we are working with the National Hardwood Lumber Association on unique grade rules that fit urban trees better than the standard grade rules would for industrial lumber. You know, we can't make a lot of FAS out. There's not a lot of those trees, but we can make a lot of 1 and better. So with that, we can give customers a consistent product, whether we ship it out of Philadelphia, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Louisville, Memphis, to these manufacturers and give them a common grade.
Yeah.
And then with the money that's made at the sawmill level, we replant and then rehire people from that neighborhood. So it's just sort of a circle that gives back on itself.
Yeah.
We put back in the ground more native trees. We don't like to put in exotics, that kind of thing. I'm not a big believer in getting that back in the ground. But we also replant with in mind, what's this tree going to be in 80 years? What are we going to turn it into?
Yeah.
Do I really need a hackberry tree?
Yeah.
Would it be better to be a white oak tree? Would it be better to be an emerald ash borer resistant ash tree?
Yeah.
Maybe American chestnut. You know, so we have a full nursery in Memphis as well that is replanting back in the sites that trees are being removed from. And part of this is it's trees that are being removed from, say, expansion. You know, they're going to build a new neighborhood, shopping. Maybe it's just a windstorm comes through. So some of this is weather related.
Yeah.
Disaster relief. You know, we're working on a contract right now with the city that as soon as a tornado or a windstorm or something comes through town, that they can immediately take those logs to our site rather than driving out to the landfill and being backed up one truck after another. Yeah. They can unload themselves right at our site and get out within 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's a disaster relief as well. We actually let them dump that at a small price, but otherwise we take all that material in, the limbs and everything, and we turn those into durable goods that have a price to them.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing on everything that you can touch. Just looking at what's coming out of the cities, and as you and I were talking before this interview, it's the fact that this is located mostly in the U.S. and in Canada we don't do any of this. So we're going to set up a meeting here and get some people involved and start thinking about it, because it's a problem in Canada just as much as it is in the U.S.
I would say it's maybe even a bigger problem.
Because we got more ash.
You have more ash, and you have a smaller selection of species in your urban areas. Yeah. So it means when you have an issue, it's a much bigger issue.
Well, listen, I really wish you the best in your committee and your group on the work that you're doing. It sounds exciting. You found a kind of another life after the music world, but you're still involved. Right?
I'm still involved. I'm still involved here.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important that for us, we really call it a biomass campus, in that all these biologicals come in and we don't have any waste go out. So we turn it all into product. What we can't use for lumber, we maybe compost, or we turn it into biochar, which is an up and coming product that stores the carbon much longer. I mean, we put that in the ground, it's in there for 100 years versus, chip it, it's back into the sea. Yeah. So it's really a big vision sort of thing. We want to tie up a lot of carbon. We think eventually the carbon credits will be valuable too. So that these operations, while they're very urban, will run on their own. They are a for-profit business that once we get it set up and running, they run themselves. And then we're on to the next city. Then we're on to Louisville. Then we're on to Knoxville. We're on to Atlanta.
Well, let her grow, Mike. That's the plan. And listen, I wish you the best of luck with your project, and hopefully we can work something out too of looking at how we can do this in Canada and how we can set up using the model that you have in place already.
Yep, and I already speak the language, so
there we go. You'll be all set, and then we can bring you up here. So you might have to wear a jacket more than you.
I'm sure I have one in the closet somewhere.
Okay, very best.
All right, thanks, Bob.
There we go. There we have it. Another edition of Northern Heat for this week, the place you come to listen to the stories that haven't been discovered yet.